My dear friends, firstly, I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar, whose subject is really, really interesting and very pertinent to our world today. And this is a fascinating subject that is taking an important place in our lives, and that is artificial intelligence or AI. Now, today we are at the AI crossroad, and the question is there a reason for fear or hope? Let us explore this question from a wider lens and longer time horizon. There is so much fear, doom, and gloom being expressed over how AI will impact humanity. Lots and lots of cynicism too against companies, tech billionaires, and the lot, both justifiable and unjustifiable. So to get a clearer picture, we need to step away from the chaos surrounding this subject and look at it from 35,000 feet above. Things always look different when we explore a subject from the big picture perspective, and we have done that many times before. Is the picture that we see painted everywhere in our media today as dark as it is being presented? Or is it neutral? Or is it bright? Or is it something totally different? Important questions. Now, we all know what artificial intelligence is, but here is a simple layman's definition. Artificial intelligence is when machines or computers are designed to think, learn, and make decisions in ways that seem intelligent, similar to how humans do. So we are basically dealing with machines that are intelligent, trainable, and have the capacity to evolve through learning. These machines can help with our mundane tasks and also possibly our complex ones too. At a simplistic level, when your phone predicts what you want to type, and sometimes it can be very annoying, but when it predicts what you want to type, or when a car drives itself, that's AI learning from data to act smart. Okay? Now, based on my experience as a scientist and as one who uses most such tools, I consider AI today as being in its infancy. Those of us who have tested it objectively have concluded that they are not so smart yet. In fact, I have caught out my AI programs in so many areas on technical issues that I do not believe fully what they say anymore. I just use them as a reference. Now, on a funnier note, after one of our recent webinars, I thought, let me put together a thumbnail for the YouTube clip that matches the topic I was talking on, because it's quite hard to find the right images. So I said, right, I'll try ChatGPT and see how it can produce this image for me. So I fed in the inputs. It produced one image. And then I said, oh, can you reduce the number of people in it? It wiped the whole thing out and put only one person. So then I kept giving it more and more instructions. Can you do this? Can you do that? Even to the point where we almost got it right. And I said, can you reduce the tone blue? It wiped everything out. And now instead of 4 people, there were 15 again. So I was completely exasperated. And in my frustration, I said to the AI bot, are you really as dumb as what you are putting out? I mean, this was annoying. It replied, I'm sorry you feel that way. Can we start again and I'll try harder? Classy diplomacy to go with a very dumb output. But that's what we're dealing with. So my dear friends, our AI machines today are still like 2-year-olds as far as their technology goes. Is it likely to change? Sure, very much so. Like any new technological evolution, systems and programs always improve, generally in small measures and then in larger ones. So I often go back to the time when the first PCs came to market. So I'm giving away my age a bit, but when the first PCs came to market, it was in the early 80s. And being a lover of tech, I bought one of the earliest generations of PCs of the time. It didn't even have a fancy name. It was called the Best Computer. That was the brand. Some of you may have bought that too, like me. I vividly recall myself thinking, this is a revolutionary invention. And we had 128K floppy disks at the time, and I considered it a revolutionary invention. I was excited to have the first 128K floppy disk PC. Going one step backwards, my first introduction to computers was at university in the UK in the mid-1970s, where we had a massive machine that filled up an entire room in our computer center. Big machine. It ran a program called Fortran, where you wrote your program, so that took you quite a while, and then you coded it on 10 to 100 cards or more, and they kept punching in holes wherever you provided an input. And then you handed that in, and then an operator would feed those cards into the machine alongside everybody else's work. And voila, the next day, you got your output printout on a super wide sheet of green and white striped paper. So many of you will remember this. Light green and white striped paper, like a terrible zebra. Seems so backward today, doesn't it? Like the rock tool of a Stone Age man. But in the mid-70s, such computers were a wonder of the time. I remember visiting Kenya in my summer holidays and telling my parents about this machine. And you could see they were filled with awe and marveled at how far we as humans had come. Today, one would almost have to apologize for using such a technological dinosaur. Fast forward the clock a bit. The Fortran white elephants disappeared. Floppy disks disappeared. Solid disks came and went. And where are we today? With smartphones that have 1 million or billion or trillion times greater capacity, tiny smartphones, stuff that used to fill up an entire room, now in the palm of our hands. We now have computers that have advanced to the quantum computing stage. What an exciting evolution! Will quantum computers carve a new future for humanity? Sure it will. Should we fear quantum computers? No. Philosophically speaking, a quantum computer is no different to other inventions of the constant technological revolution that humanity has experienced historically. Similarly, were we afraid of the Fortran program computer in the 70s that filled up an entire room? No. We were intrigued by it. Did our floppy disk type and subsequent computer models give us cause for fear? Did they destroy our civilization the way we knew it then? Nope. They just made our world so much more efficient. When the internet first came in, did it scare us? Did it turn our lives upside down in a bad way? No. Did it destroy humanity? No. In reality, it gave us exciting new tools. Talking about the semiconductor breakthroughs, we have gone from large chips to microchips, and now we are down to ultra tiny nano chips today that you can barely even see. We are also moving into chips based on light photons. What an exciting development. Great new development. Is this something to fear? No. Like always, these developments will offer us new tools and capacities. I think a fundamental point to recognize is who has always been in the driver's seat behind all technological breakthroughs, social, cultural, industrial revolutions, technology. Who has been in the driver's seat? It is and always will be the human mind, intellect, and spirit. And I'll say that again. It is and always will be the human mind, intellect, and spirit. So we are experiencing our evolution through creations of no other than our own human minds and spirits. No outside force or machines or aliens are driving this. It is us, plain and simple. It is us. And no matter how advanced AI gets, it will never be able to come even close to the power of the human intellect. A power that embodies intelligence at a level that can never be created or simulated. So in the end, humanity will always be in the driver's seat, my dear friends. Therefore, if we don't want our careers to become obsolete through AI, doesn't it seem logical that the best solution lies in developing and sharpening our intellect? There will always be a demand for that. And remember, AI outputs are only as good as the questions we ask of them. And the power of such data discerning decisions can only come from humans. When it goes down to the wire, it can only come from humans. People will debate all they want, but this is a fact of life, because human intellect draws from the infinite intelligence. Impossible for any of us to come close to that in terms of reinventing it. So there are no artificial alternatives to deep power of reasoning. Something to consider, developing our powers of intellect and reasoning. There will always be a market for us. Therefore, I believe that when it comes to technology, or any new development for that matter, if we want to choose what to fear and what to celebrate, the buck stops with us. No one else, no creature or machine. The buck stops with us. So, my dear friends, when I look at us, I see us all like babies in a crib. We see our first toy and are in awe of it. You've seen a baby and seeing our first toy for the first time. Then mom and dad put a mobile on the crib which rotates, and we are intrigued and we are highly entertained. Then as we grow up, our toys get more and more interesting and bigger. We don't stand still at any point. We are always challenged by being exposed to new types of evolutions. Our technological revolution is no different, my dear friends. Even Stone Age man went from blunt sticks to flintstones, from fire to rock tools and more. That's how our world works in all aspects of life, be it technology, or be it social and cultural development, or education, etc., etc. Life in this world is dynamic, and we flow with its dynamism from birth to death. We are not unique in that respect. Our ancestors went through the same in their times. Their step changes may have been smaller compared to today, but for them, each change was monumental. Think about the Stone Age man who first came across fire. Just try and imagine what went through his or her mind. So each change was monumental. And here we are today. AI, our invention, is being demonized as a high-risk potential destroyer of our way of life. Fear is being spread over this, despite the infancy stage of the technology. People are terrified about losing their jobs and watching machines take over the world, with its abuse being uncontrollable. There are major legal and ethical issues that need to be addressed for how AI should be correctly used and governed. Unfortunately, the technology is progressing faster than these checks and measures can be put into place. There is a lot of fear about machines being trained by tech billionaires and rogue nations to serve their interests over the basic interests of humanity. Sure, this can all be happening and more. And truth be told, none of these concerns are deniable. Do we need to urgently address them? Absolutely yes. And what is it going to take? An important question that we can explore further today. But once again, going up to the 35,000 feet level, the question arises, is this the first time something like this is happening in human history? Is this the first time? Think about it, my dear friends. Let us take a step back. You all remember the company Kodak. It was a household name in photography. This company got crushed by the advent of digital photography. Was this change preventable? No, it was inevitable. If Kodak's management had changed the company's activities to keep up with the changing technological landscape, who knows? They may have become a dominant force in the industry and prevail to this day. They certainly had a head start over everyone else, that's for sure. The issue here is not about should we fear technology or AI. The issue is how can we adapt ourselves to manage the changes that come with such new tools and capacities. How can we adapt ourselves? Change is a hallmark of life in our world, and those that embrace change and flow with it come out ahead. Those that resist it become the Kodaks of this world. And our history is filled with endless examples like Kodak. From the abacus to the calculator, from the music cassette to the CD, and now to the nanochip, from the wows of the 128 and 256K floppy disks to terabytes of storage in almost invisible chips. Look at how humanity has evolved from time immemorial, from the Dark Ages to the Renaissance, to the development of advanced weaponry-controlled dominance, to power shifts, and more. Look at our evolution from the countless revolutions that have come from the Bronze Age to today. It's been continuous and it's been rapid, no matter what time you lived in. Evolution will never stop, my dear friends. It will only get faster, and the key is how we adapt to and manage the change. And as humans, we have an incredible capacity to adapt, change, and find new opportunities in everything. It all boils down to our mindset. A flexible mindset carries you down a fast-flowing river without capsizing your boat. A rigid mindset sets you on collision course with the rocks and obstacles in the same river. So whether it is the abacus or the calculator or AI is not important. It is our mindset that matters the most. Now, specifically with respect to AI, as I said earlier, there is a lot of concern around how these machines are trained. Many cynics say AI can be trained by dark minds to do dark things. Are these legitimate concerns? Sure. Are there solutions for this? Yes. But we have to start by considering the question, how is training AI different to how we as humans have historically brainwashed other humans, to exert power on them, and to go as far as converting them into deadly weapons? We are known to radicalize young people into becoming weapons, or manipulating the media with money and falsehoods to bring in leaders that are totally unqualified morally, ethically, and often even educationally. This is a well-known fact. This is all happening every day. And what does that tell us? Is it AI that is the real problem? No. It's just a new tool that today is like a 2-year-old child, and it will grow. The issue is human consciousness, my dear friend. That's the core issue. Those who are parents have raised their children based on their mindset and values and consciousness, from creating superminds like Albert Einstein, to good and compassionate people, to absolute criminals and scoundrels. Human consciousness is the culprit here, not the child or the AI machine. So this is what we have to fix if we wish to progress and train our tools to serve us best. Our consciousness has to play a big part in the ethics, compassion, and understanding that we project upon others, be they our children or be they our trainable bots of AI. The question is about the quality of our human consciousness. And sadly, today, we as a humanity are at the rock bottom on that one. But it will change. Now we have to look at our human character also, that harbors great capacities, but it is also home to the ego, to greed, cruelty, hunger for power, and more. So human character is the next big one. If human character is given tools, it is obvious that the dark sides of our character will abuse such tools, and the bright sides of our character will nurture such tools and use them towards positive progress. So similar to the pillars of human creativity, character, mindset, flexibility, adaptability, and consciousness, there are a number of other pillars that we as a humanity can draw upon. And this is where, my dear friends, we need to focus. Rather than going in circles, fearing our own technological evolution, that will not lead us anywhere. If we get our core values right, and the key word is core values, if we get our core values right, this technological evolution can propel us into a future that few of us could have ever imagined. And this brings me to the concept of ancient wisdom, as projected by the Alacanzeran scrolls. I'll give you a short background on the Alacanzera civilization, because I wrote the book on this civilization more than 20 years ago. And then we can look at some of the excerpts of the scrolls that they left behind, which point to the events of our world today. Who are the Alacanzerans? So historically, you all know about the Mahabharat era, where there was a massive battle between the forces of good and evil. And the forces of good prevailed, but the earth was left devastated. So to restart life again, this Alacanzera civilization, who were very advanced scientifically, technology-wise, spiritually, they were masters. They came as healing beings to restore our planet and heal it from the devastation of the wars and make it inhabitable once again. We have all seen so many images of destruction of cities after relentless bombings. We've seen a lot of that over the last 2 years, making these cities and these bombed out places totally uninhabitable. Now imagine the entire earth in such a state. That is the task the Alacanzerans came to fulfill, to make our world inhabitable again. And one has to have a tremendous amount of power to be able to achieve that. They came to pave the way for future civilizations that could thrive in this beautiful playground of life. Physically, if we say where did they live, where was the major epicenter of their civilization, it was in South America, centered within the geography of Venezuela as we know it today. And what happened to them after they had done their work? When their task was done, and they wrote about it in their scrolls before it happened, there was a huge tectonic shift, and their world sank under the ocean. And the last remnant of their world was Mount Avila, which is like a mountain and a cliff, and then you're back into the ocean. In this area, from Mount Avila to the Canary Islands, is often known as where the Atlantis civilization lived. But this is also where the Alacanzera civilization thrived. So is there a connection between the two? Very likely. So this is how, after completing their mission, they went back into Mother Earth and Mother Water. Now, I'm giving you very short snippets of the book, but I'm planning to republish this book very soon and have it available as an ebook so you can all enjoy reading it and really dig into the knowledge that's there. It's very profound. So how did I write about the Alacanzera? I had no clue who they were. But Karima and I and our team, we were in Caracas in Venezuela, and we held a healing event in Caracas, and it was in the town of San Antonio. And it was in an auditorium, a very large auditorium. And when we walked in, we were quite amazed to see the auditorium was packed full. We did the healing event, the large group meditation, which most of you are familiar with. It's done on a universal basis, each one based on his or her own beliefs. We had a very nice meditation, and then when we were getting ready to leave, we were told, can you wait? And the whole audience left, and another full auditorium full of audience walked in, because some of these people had traveled from miles to come here because they come from a strong Catholic background and they have a very strong sense of belief in the power of healing. So we had a second healing meditation with another packed auditorium. One of the people who was sitting in there was the mayor of San Antonio. Well, I didn't know that. But when we finished the second meditation, he stood up to say thank you. And then he also said that you guys have come from so far. You've done us a great service. You've not charged us anything. How can we in turn reciprocate? So he said, we would like to offer you whatever you need from our municipality. If you need a bus, you need to organize something, we'll help you. And that's how the question of having this meditation on top of Mount Avila came about. And so we requested that we would like to go up the Mount Avila, and they said fine, so they brought the bus. He came along too. And then from where the bus dropped us, we then had to take like what they call a teleférico, which is like a gondola, like a ski gondola that takes you up. We got to the top of Mount Avila, and there were a lot of people. So it's a famous tourist destination, a beautiful place. Highly recommend you visit it. But we kept walking, and now I began to sense where I wanted to have this meditation. And this is how it normally works. And there's a large government building, like a big chateau. And I wanted to have the meditation in the gardens of that chateau, but it was closed shut. But because we had all the support, see how it all ties together. The support, the man being present in the healing meditation now comes to help. They talked to the guards, and next thing you know, we were all allowed in there, and we were the only ones. There was 101 of us. And then we had this meditation. And this was, at the start of the dawn of the millennium in the 2000s. And then during this meditation, I went through a very interesting experience, very inspired experience. It was almost like in its midst, I had, crossed a gateway into this world of the Alacanzera. Very fascinating world, very advanced, very vibrant, very spiritual. And I experienced so much within seconds. It was all encapsulated. And then when we finished the meditation, I said to Karima, write down this word, Alacanzera. And, a few days later, I began to write the whole experience I had seen. But now I was writing it in the form of a story, through the eyes of a young Spanish stockbroker. His name was Juan Lopez from Madrid. and he and his wife, Mary Carmen. I was writing it through his eyes, this entire journey, which actually made it better to be able to express all the finer details without putting the audience to sleep. And so, who was Juan Lopez and who was Mary Carmen? So these are a young couple who had been in love since university days, and then they got married, and Juan was doing very well in his career. He knew nothing about spirituality or anything. He was totally uninterested. He was a money boy. And then he got into trouble with the fund that he was running, and as a result, he ended up with legal issues, and he had a very rough 5-year period. And then, as things were settling down, they were still not resolved. One time, his wife, Mary Carmen, said, "Why don't we go to Santiago de Compostela?" Now, for those of you who know about the pilgrimage in Spain, the Camino de Santiago, it starts on the east shore of Spain, and you walk right across to Santiago de Compostela, which is close to the western shore. And the big main cathedral of Santiago is a very sacred place, and that's where the walk goes through and almost begins to culminate. So they go, and they remember, she said, "We had such a nice honeymoon, and we went to Santiago, let's go there again." And so they go. And as they're walking through this one part of the corridor, they both experience what I call the eternal flame. They're both touched by this very beautiful light. And they stop. And somehow for Juan Lopez, who had come with total darkness from all his life experiences, begins to lighten up and begins to feel more confident, and both of them are really touched by this eternal flame. And after they spend enough time there and they come out, they look in the garden, and sitting at the bench is someone Juan Lopez recognizes, who is his university buddy Pepe, who is gone to Venezuela. He's a very successful businessman in Venezuela, and he's there with his wife Oriana. And they reunite, and Pepe actually helps Juan to come out of his troubles. And then he invites them to come and visit Venezuela. And that's what brought Juan Lopez and Mary Carmen to Mount Avila. So this is the background. Now, what did Juan Lopez see? Because he crossed the gateway, as I described. I crossed the gateway and I saw everything, but he was the character now through which we were going to express everything. He walks through the gateway and he meets Ohuma, who is the guardian of the Alacanzeran world. Now remember, they're not living beings, they are a living consciousness. They were living beings after the Mahabharat era, but since then they have lived as a consciousness that inspires. And so then Ohuma shows Juan Lopez around, and that's when Juan Lopez finds out that Pepe's wife, Oriana, she's beautiful, but she is actually an Alacanzeran, manifested physically in our day and time. And when he realizes that, he goes, wow. So then he journeys through their world, and you'll have read the book and see all the things he learns, but they share with him their architecture, which revolves around the zero circle. The symbol of the Alacanzera, of all their beliefs, is the zero circle, and we all know that the zero circle is that of the origin. So their homes were circular. They would sit in meditation in a circular space. A lot of their science and technology revolved around circles, and I said they were very advanced. So they give Juan Lopez a first-hand view of their architecture and the power of the zero circle. Then they take him one night for a full moon meditation where all the dolphins come from the sea, and it's at the coast. And that's when Juan Lopez realizes the close bond that the Alacanzerans have with the dolphins. And it's a telepathic bond because both of them have telepathic abilities. And this is when Ohuma tells Juan Lopez that these dolphins are not ordinary creatures, they are your ancestors. So according to the Alacanzeran belief, the life on earth started in the sea. And this is how, when you look at the human body and we look at our lungs, for example, more than half of it is that of a fish. They're from origins of gills. So he was explaining that according to their belief, Adam, who our scriptures talk about, was actually a dolphin, and a highly intelligent dolphin. And then the Garden of Eden was actually in the ocean. And the serpent was a vortex, because when a serpent coils, it's a vortex, was power of thought. And so according to their belief system, life began in the ocean. And then it came to land, and then we became what we are. So the dolphins play a very big role in the Alacanzeran world. So he experiences that, and he has a whole new outlook now towards them. They also show him their science of water, sacred science of water, how water communicates with nature and the universe, how it has so many capacities that if we were to utilize today, we could really make our world a lot better place. And for example, famous scientists like Masaru Emoto, and I've spoken of him many times, have empirically shown that water is able to imprint information. And he did that by putting different messages on water dishes and then freezing them and photographing their crystals. And those that were positive produced beautiful crystals, negative thoughts produced chaos. He has just shown us empirically a very small window of what the Alacanzerans knew. They actually utilized water to its fullest extent. Then they walk him through these large crystal mines, and they walk him through what was their crystal age. And they show him what they did with crystals, how they engineered crystals to take, for example, the light of the sun and break it into very fine bands through which you can actually convert water to energy. And, they showed how they used crystals to create apparent gravitational fields. Like, for example, if you are on Earth, you weigh 90 kilos or 100 kilos, you go to moon, you will weigh 16 kilos because it's 15 times lighter because of the gravitational field. So they, using crystals and circular motion, created a centripetal force that drops the gravity around something very heavy, and then they are able to lift massive boulders. And this is the genesis of how the pyramids were built. So they show him all this. And they also show him how different forms of energy exist in nature and how they utilize those different. They even said, you use wind energy with these ugly turbines, but the real power of wind energy is within the vibration of its waves. So, and then they have wave resonance energy, which connects the land to the sea. And it's a very powerful energy, which they use with the help of their crystals. So, fast forwarding, they reveal to him their numerology, their cosmic calendar. Now, they didn't believe in, a calendar as we do, which is a year by year. Their cosmic cycle starts when certain cosmic bodies are fully aligned in one straight point. There's many of them. And when they are fully aligned is when the new cosmic cycle starts. And until they come back to alignment, so it's not a fixed period of time. One cosmic cycle could be 10 years, it could be 50 years. But they would follow the cosmic calendar based on these celestial bodies. Then they also showed how they explained to him how before their civilization came to an end, they had already planted their seeds all over the world, and that they were the ancestors of the Maya, the Aztecs, the native indigenous people of America and Canada. These were all Alacanzerans who went all over the world and then started. So you will see the depth of knowledge that exists within them is also reflected in the people of the First Nations and others. The Egyptians, and they spread there, and they took the science of pyramids and all. They went all the way to the Himalayas. and in Asia. And there's still a very small enclave of them that still is present in the Himalayan mountains. So this is what they are all showing him. And they also explained to him how river dolphins came about. Because when they moved inland, some of the dolphins followed them through into sweet water, and they evolved into river dolphins. So the dolphins actually started from the sea, but the river dolphins adapted themselves to sweet water. All that is a background on the Alacanzerans. Fascinating civilization and a great journey for me writing it. And I'm having fun relating it to you. But let me come to the scrolls. So the scrolls are in a place, they take Juan Lopez on a mountain called Mount Sakawa. And they go there, and it's in a cave, and they show him all their scrolls. And I have now taken excerpts from their scrolls. They are in the book, but I've taken excerpts from these scrolls and simplified them a bit to help us understand where we are today in this world and help us understand all about AI and what's coming next. So according to the scrolls, we are the 12th civilization. So after the Alacanzera, there have been 11 civilizations, and we are the 12th one. Now let us look at some of their messages as it pertains to the 12th civilization. Their 7th scroll says, "There shall be 12 civilizations that prevail on this earth." The 13th one, "if it should come," remember, the 13th one, "if it should come, shall prevail in the universe well beyond the planet Earth." Okay, make note of that. Each of the 12 civilizations shall start with pure values and harmony. But as they grow, the power of decision-making shall be polarized within the strongest group of people who shall represent themselves as supreme authorities. And we've seen that throughout history. Their quest for control and greed for wealth shall cause them to inflict damage upon the planet and all its creation. The spirit and forces of equilibrium of the earth respect freedom at all levels of creation. They deny all forces of polarization that inhibit this freedom. So anything that inhibits our freedom or freedom of creation is denied. Towards the end of the 12th century, and this is why civilizations rose and fell, towards the end of the 12th civilization, humanity will be devoid of freedom, and the nature and harmony of the planet shall be deeply eroded, and that's where we are today. Then shall come an evolutionary call or message from the universe that ordains the demise of those within whom power has become polarized. No apparent supreme authority or civilization shall be able to exist once it has become a liability to the planet. Towards the end of the 12th civilization, there shall emerge an awareness of positive consciousness with the blessings of the origin. Humanity shall be endowed with the ability to communicate instantly with one another, without the barriers of distance or geography. This was all written so long before we even knew what social media was all about. This ability shall become a tool in spreading a positive consciousness, bringing about human empowerment at all levels of society. This process will ultimately take power away from the hands of the so-claimed supreme authorities and cause it to be widely vested in humanity as a whole. Let it be known that depolarization of power and restoration of harmony on this planet will be achieved if the majorities will it so. My dear friends, we are this majority the scrolls speak about. The ball is in our court and in no one else's. If the majorities will it so, this change will come. Then the 9th scroll says, when the 12th civilization approaches the point of transformation, they talk quite a bit about an era of transformation. It's not a fixed point, but it's It's like a river going into the ocean, and there is that era before it becomes the ocean. So the 12th civilization will reach this point of transformation, which according to their numerology comes out to around the year 2012. They say it can either, when we reach this point of transformation, this civilization can either destroy itself within a few cosmic cycles or transform into the 13th civilization with true power and unity at its core. And this is where in the scrolls they point out that there are 7 very powerful places on earth, each one having a profound connection with the universe, with the human spirit, with Mother Earth. And they point out these 7 locations, they describe where they are. And this is what started our shift movement. And our goal was to be able to go to each of these 7 places and perform global meditations based on the essence of what the scrolls had told us. So we did that between 2003 and 2011, and we completed that before 2012. So my dear friends, the good news is that when we reach this point of transformation as a humanity, and there were people all over the world doing work like us, somehow, with the grace of the Creator, we were able to achieve that positive transformation from 2012 and beyond. And the 13th civilization has already been born. They are the children born in the last 15 to 20 years or so. And they continue to be born each day with a totally different consciousness to ours. Their consciousness is one of empathy, love, and compassion. You look at these young kids who are being born now, they are very different. When I look at our grandson, he's so full of love and care and empathy, and it flows from him. But it's not just him. I see it in all other kids. When he was 2, when he was 2, we were on a flight in Canada. And, there was a baby sitting behind us who was really suffering with her ear pain. He was about 1.5 years. And she was bawling her eyes out, and he starts crying. And we're looking at him, and then around him, all the other little ones on the plane start crying. They're all crying in empathy with this little girl who they don't know. But those are the souls that have come to be the pallbearers of the 13th civilization, my dear friends. So these children are completely different beings who have the mental, spiritual, and moral capacity to become and lead the 13th civilization from earth to universe. So the 9th scroll says, when the 12th civilization approaches the point of transformation, which begins in the year 2012, as I said, I calculated it, and goes beyond, it can either destroy itself within a few cosmic cycles or transform into the 13th civilization with true power and unity at its core. The Alacanzerans say, we shall emerge as a living consciousness in humanity as this time approaches. And this is one of the reasons, and this is how I ended up being inspired by them and their knowledge, which I have then shared, because that was my role, was just to share. The first signs, they say in the scrolls, of our emergence shall be the crop circles that will appear in fields and forests at places of our choosing. Now, large parts of North America, actually, there's a field, crops are growing, and then all of a sudden, something happens and they form a circle. And these crop circles, which are distinct, perfect circles that weren't there and suddenly appeared. How? And these circles form through the intelligence of water. And generally a cloud has passed over with that water that causes these crop circles to form. So they say these circles shall mark the return of our way of growing food through harmony with the earth and respect for the intelligence of water. Remember, they came as healing beings, so they had to bring all these capacities with them. So growing food through harmony with the earth, and respect for the intelligence of water. They say these circles shall reveal that the life of water on this planet shall not be permitted to die through adverse human actions. So we will not be allowed to destroy the life of water. The second sign of our emergence shall come when there occurs a shift in consciousness throughout humanity with respect to preserving and protecting Mother Earth. In the last 25 years, there's been so much spoken about, conferences, people awakening to the importance of preserving and protecting Mother Earth. We've been awakened. And this shift in consciousness, they say, shall give rise to laws and methods of living that fully respect the well-being of Mother Earth. So we are in that transition. And that consciousness is awoken, and it's growing. They say the third sign of our emergence shall be witnessed when humanity at large shall begin to embrace spirituality over ritualistic religion. So this process of drift towards spirituality, we are seeing it happening now. That was the third sign. The concept of meditation, which is the hallmark of our civilization, shall spread freely throughout humanity. I remember when I was growing up and, I went to school, university in England, working in the West. Meditation was not talked about. Most people never even, engaged in any meaningful conversation. But then came different teachers. Then came yoga. Then came practice. And next thing you know, this knowledge began to spread. And meditation has become now something very universal and commonly accepted. This is the next hallmark. And they say because meditation embodies the key to restoring the intrinsic harmony and energies of the earth so that it may maintain its place as a home to creation in the universe. So my dear friends, we see all the above three signs as having manifested in the recent years. And that is a great reason for hope. Now let us look at the final and very pertinent excerpted message. This is the second final, from the fifth scroll, which is about the creation of artificial life. They talk about creation of artificial life. They say the beings of the 12th civilization shall begin to manipulate the intelligence of life forces through a science they barely understand. So they may think they know the science, but they do not understand its powers and implications. So they begin to manipulate the intelligence of life forces. They will try to create intelligent artificial life. AI is intelligent. Artificial life. Repeating the mistakes of the people of the red planet, which is Mars, whose science had evolved to a level where they believed they had acquired the powers of creation. They had become gods. This happened at a time when, like Earth, their planet too was devoid of harmony. It was sterile indeed. Therefore, the red planet could no longer exist within the universe. It was destroyed by the very science of creation of its inhabitants, who developed organisms that they could not control. These organisms multiplied instantaneously, consuming the atmosphere of the planet and breaking down all its protective layers. The rays of the sun reached the surface of the planet without restriction, causing complete incineration of what was once home to advanced civilizations. And if you are keeping up with the news, with all the Mars expeditions, they have found the signs of water now on Mars. There are signs that water existed there. There are signs that if water was there, then water-based life could be there. But it was all incinerated, but they left signs behind. So the scroll says the 12th civilization shall repeat the same mistakes of their counterparts on the red planet. They too shall begin to manipulate intelligence. What we are doing with AI is intelligence, creating artificial intelligence. But then more than that, they also manipulate the forces of life through the development of their science. There will be voices of reason, the scrolls say, that may protest against these developments. but they may not be heard until the point of transformation, which was 2012. So, my dear friends, this scroll talks about manipulation of artificial life and intelligence. This is why it points to today. And we can draw parallels from it today in terms of science, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and more. We have it all today. We are there. But fortunately, we are going to transform to the 13th civilization through our new generation and the power of their new consciousness that relegates our darkness to the past. Miraculously, our long lockdown during COVID, for example, restored a large part of our ozone layer of the planet. Another sign of hope. And this is what I believe the final excerpt of the scroll confirms. And it says in scroll 10, which is called the 13th civilization, it says, after equilibrium has been restored in each of the 7 aziras, which are the 7 focal points where we meditated, things will begin to change. The scroll says, there shall be a great positive transformation in human consciousness towards unity, peace, and compassion. So when I think of that period when we were doing all our meditations around the world, there were also so many others doing the same thing. So it was like humanity was mobilized as one humanity in this endeavor which we all took a part in. But he said there shall be a great positive transformation in human consciousness towards unity, peace, and compassion. Now you may say, look at the killing and devastation going on to this day. How could you say we have transformed? Very fair question. The answer is time, my dear friends. Time. Since 2012, so much good and bad have happened in our world. The bad being more widely broadcast over the good. So incredible new technologies like AI, for example, have evolved and are making themselves ready for the 13th civilization to use in its quests for peace and stability on Earth and creation of a new human presence in life-hosting bodies well beyond the planet Earth. So when I say the answer is time, think of a nasty, huge pimple on your face. It hurts and it grows. And even if you try to burst it prematurely, it comes back. Think of it as a pimple. It keeps coming and growing until finally it bursts naturally and the pus all flows away. Then new skin grows and everything heals. And in time there will be no sign that the pimple ever existed. We are at the pimple burst and pus stage, my dear friends. A very ugly thing to watch, and we have all watched its ugliness over the last few years. But we are at the burst and pus stage. But this pimple will go away, as the scrolls indicate, leaving behind a healed skin for the 13th civilization to do what it is destined to do. So back to the 10th scroll, it says, there shall be a great positive transformation in human consciousness towards unity, peace, and compassion. This transformation will dominate all creation, including the conscience of every single human being, regardless of race, religion, culture, or place in life. The inhabitants of the superpowers, as well as those of the less powerful nations, shall unite in peace. The disadvantaged, and some of the scrolls talk about disadvantaged people and what they have gone through, and them also being, their suffering being part of this very ugly place we have reached. But the disadvantaged shall end their hidden war, as they too will be inspired to unite with the rest of humanity and to seek solutions to their grievances through peaceful means. This major shift in human consciousness shall leave no room for war, conflict, or divisive forces. Leaders that promulgate fear and conflict shall be replaced by voices of consensus. Voices of consensus. There shall be an overwhelming tide of uniting energies, like the energy of fusion of the sun, that brings humanity together as one. Remember, energy of the sun comes from fusion, from unity. Nuclear bombs come from fission. This will mark a complete reversal in the process of division and fission that has prevailed in humanity until this point of transformation. 2 cosmic cycles later, and as I said to you, their cosmic cycles are not fixed years, but they're when these cosmic bodies align. 2 cosmic cycles later, as humanity embraces a new and enriched level of empowerment, a technology shall be revealed that completely eliminates the need for highly polluting energy sources. Up to this point, those who have controlled the world's energy have dominated others by virtue of their economic power that comes from possession and exploitation of energy. Most of the pollution in the planet will have been created by the use of these primitive energy sources, and we all recognize that. The new energy source shall be water, whose supply shall be abundant. Hence, pollution of the planet will come to a swift end. The replacement of primitive energy sources with water shall completely alter the economic structure of the human world, as there shall be a rapid redistribution of wealth and resources in a more fair and equitable manner, something we haven't heard of. There will be a new economic measure based on energy units instead of barter. Today we have barter, cash, goods, services, but there's a new economy that will grow which is based on energy units. This will yield healthy and passive economic decisions that are in harmony with this planet. The 13th civilization will call it the energy economy, which shall promote the reuse of the earth's resources, as it shall be more profitable and energy efficient to do so. So in an energy economy, recycling just about anything is highly profitable. So it's self-driven, not legislation-driven. The 13th civilization shall witness dissolution of political and economic boundaries, bringing about a new order of unity and peace. This civilization will make tremendous scientific progress, which will include new methods of propulsion that will enable rapid travel between the Earth and other planets, galaxies, and life-supporting cosmic bodies. This will cause humanity to open new frontiers of life and growth in the universe. The human beings of the 13th civilization shall promulgate their consciousness of unity, equilibrium, and light to distant homes within the universe. They will replace us as a living consciousness on this planet and in the universe. That's what the scrolls say, my dear friends. Alacanzeran scrolls offer us caution, but they also give us much hope in the future of humanity. You can see how the powers of AI, quantum computing, all these things are tools the 13th civilization is going to use to expand its influence like nothing we've ever imagined. So we are the 12th civilization, the parents and grandparents of the 13th civilization, our pallbearers in a future that lies beyond our imagination. So let us do everything in our power to care for them, nurture them, and above all, listen to them. For as souls, they are a lot more wiser than most of us could aspire to be. So to support the 13th civilization, let us use our powers of democratic vote and the powers of our voice as a humanity to foster positive change and bring about moral and ethical governance of all the technologies we have been blessed with and are to be blessed with. Let's not fear them. Let's be the best custodians we can be. With that, I'd like to conclude, and I'd like to thank each one of you for being here, bringing your light, bringing your energy, bringing your blessed presence to this webinar. I'd like to thank you all, and I pray that the light of our Creator may always be with you, to help you, guide you, protect you, and love you always. Stay blessed.